the singular becomes the universal, and then the universal becomes the singular. It is a process of development of everything, according to Evald Ilyenkov in the work that I continuously promote, The Dialectics of the Abstract and the Concrete, but in Karl Marx's Capital. And this is something that you can apply, you have to apply to everything. And this is what can be helpful when you read Lenin's State and Revolution. Not only do you have to remember that the times have changed, the circumstances, the conditions have changed, and Lenin has not provided a blueprint for us to follow. We also have to remember that the singular becoming the universal doesn't mean that the singular is going to preserve its qualities and it's going to be exactly the same. It's not the smaller version of something becoming bigger. This is not a relation between the singular and the universal. This is why we have to understand that Lenin's depictions of the proletarian state, he goes on to repeat that the proletarian state is going to be the withering state. And he does talk about how we have to smash the bourgeois state in order to build a new type of a state, which is going to change so much in its qualities that it is going to cease to be the state as is. So it's going to transform slowly over time, gradually. It's going to transform itself into nothingness. It is going to disappear, not because we consciously destroy it, but because it is going to be an unnecessary, archaic leftover from the previous type of a society and type of a relation. So we have to understand that this is the same principle, the same dialectical principle as Ilyenkov points out. So the singular will become the universal. It means that, and the singular, remember, it's not some kind of floating entity. It isn't something that exists as is. The universal lives through all the different singular forms, and they will not possess all the same qualities. This is what dialectics is very good at continuously reiterating. We do not look for sameness. We look for the essence. We look for the way something moves through the world and the way it contradicts the parts of itself within itself. And in those moments of contradiction, the resolution of the contradiction, new contradiction arising, etc., in this we seek the pattern. And this is what Lenin points out when he talks about the state becoming a brand new type of an entity, being a proletarian state. And he actually was inspired, just like Marx was. Right after the revolution, Lenin was inspired by the Paris Commune. And he talked about how even though they made a lot of mistakes, and ultimately the project was unsuccessful, we can still gain much. So we have to do the same thing. We have to gain a more in-depth understanding from the Soviet project, because up until the very end of the Soviet project, there was always a chance. There was always a chance that it would not succumb to the internal contradictions, that it would not succumb to the capitalist reformation or restoration, rather, that it would remain on the path of socialism. That was a possibility, but those were the tendencies that were fighting each other, that were in contradiction with each other throughout the entire Soviet period. Again, it wasn't a monolith. The history of the Soviet period is very tumultuous and it's very interesting to study. And a lot of Western historians and Western political economists have looked at it as well, and some of them are socialists as well. So I've already mentioned that book, Socialism Betrayed, which I think offers some interesting perspectives on the history of the Soviet Union. Of course, they do have their own bias, just like all of us do, but I think it is helpful, especially to the Western audience. But the tendencies, just as Marina Burik points out in her work, Virtualized World of Capitalism, the tendencies will remain even after the revolution, even after we start building socialism. The tendencies are going to remain. The regressive tendencies to go back to commodity production, to go back to labor as a commodity, they will remain. It's not going to be some innate drive or desire from people. It is going to be something that will be familiar, and this is why it's going to be easy to replicate. And so in order for us not to fall into those traps, we have to look at the concrete understanding. So we have to gain a concrete conceptualization of every single abstraction, every single abstract part of capitalism, and then socialism as well. And of course, it is much harder for us to study socialism because we haven't had enough time to look at it developing, and it's a very, very new thing, only been available to us in the past century and a half or so. But nonetheless, we have to look into the concrete details. We have to get rid of the unnecessary details. And when people talk about nuance, they oftentimes miss the fact that we don't have to hold all the nuance at the same time. Some of it is actually distracting. Some of it is going to lead us astray. So we have to only look at the nuance that is necessary, again, to the movement, to the essence of the subject matter at hand. And with socialist movements, we have to look at the core tendencies. The tendencies being that the state is not there to serve the people or represent the people. The state is there to do the kind of tasks that are necessary for the replication of the day-to-day life. So it's managerial, and it is spread over so many people that slowly we don't need an entity such as the state anymore. And it will become such an archaic thing that we will no longer use it. And we have examples of this in modern life already. We do not use, for example, we do not use cash as often, even though a lot of people are returning to cash now because of the surveillance state, etc., etc. But we did not have to have a law established for people to stop using cash. It just became convenient, and the conditions, the material conditions around us have changed to promote us not using cash as much anymore. And other things like online interactions, online transactions, all kinds of technology has appeared, and we did not have to be forced into using it. It became convenient, it became widespread enough for everyone to be able to have access to it. And so we started utilizing it to our advantage. So same is going to happen to the proletarian state, hopefully. The state's functions are going to be so well understood by every one of us, and we will all have very clear goals and objectives that it's not going to be laborious for us to participate in the governing over our own lives. And this is what Marina Burik also talks about in her work of Virtualized World of Capitalism, where she insists that the space of free time is the time where we govern over our own lives. This is what we should be organizing. This is going to be the cell of a future socialist society, she argues. And I wholeheartedly agree with her. I believe that we have to start doing that today. We have to learn to do all kinds of governing, self-governing in relation to other people. And this is going to hopefully prepare us for what is to come. Conflict resolution skills, all kinds of interpersonal skills, all kinds of networking is necessary for us to master so that we can start slowly, brick by brick, building a foundation for the future. That does not mean that we will have to wait for the perfect person to appear that is able to do everything on their own. It means that whenever the changes start happening, they will be happening quickly. We will not have time to sit around and read books and discuss. So while we still can, we have to do it. So let me know what you think. I hope you have a great day today. Consider supporting me on Patreon to take care of yourself and your community first. Subscribe to me on all the other social media accounts, even though I don't do much there, and I'll talk to you sometime later.